Welcome to Elevate Your Ride, the podcast dedicated to elevating your performance in the saddle. I'm Ellie, your personal trainer.
And I'm Lauren, your mindset coach. Recently, we talked about how to prepare your mind and body for a ride. Today, we will talk about what to do once you're on your horse. Ellie, a lot of times it feels like it takes a little bit for us to engage our muscles and activate certain areas. Are there things that we can do to speed up the process of engaging our muscles?
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that I definitely feel like I struggle with when I ride is when I first get on. I just feel kind of uncoordinated. My muscles don't really feel activated. I don't really feel like I can wrap my legs around my horse, things like that. So, we talked about in a previous episode doing a pre ride activation routine. And that is going to be really helpful for activating your muscles, getting your mind and your body kind of connected, working together, that sort of stuff. But let's say that for whatever reason you can't or you don't want to do a pre-ride warm-up routine. It's not for everybody. So today we kind of want to talk about what are things that you can do when you're actually on your horse, like during your ride. So the biggest thing is let's say that you get on and you just feel like you can't wrap your legs around your horse or you can't sit down in your saddle or you don't feel mechanically like your body is working like it should. First, you want to focus on what exactly feels not right. So, like I said, let's say that you feel like you can't wrap your legs around your horse. So, usually that means that you're having a hard time pressing your feet down into your stirrups and having a hard time wrapping your legs underneath your horse's belly and lifting your horse up to you. You need to think about activating your hip flexors, your quad muscles, your inner thighs, your outer thighs down into your feet, basically your entire legs. The easiest way to do that before you get on your horse is just do some squats. But once you're on your horse, the best thing to do is something that's going to wake those muscles up. So, a lot of times when I get on, I just go straight to posting. After I've walked my horse around for a couple laps, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to post a couple laps each direction. And I'm going to practice direction changes. I'm going to practice circles. I'm going to practice stops, like quicker movements that kind of force my body to react to the horse. That is probably the best way to activate your muscles while you're moving with your horse. It's also going to get your horse more prepared for higher intense exercise. So, that is probably the best way for that specifically. But let's say for whatever reason you don't want to do a posting trot. Another great thing to do would be to sit up really tall. Think about pushing even weight into both of your seat bones. And you're just going to stretch your legs down. You're going to keep the balls of your feet in the stirrups. You're going to stretch your legs down and then relax your heels up. You're going to stretch your heels down and then you're going to relax your legs up. Okay, so that's going to help get the lower leg activated. From there, we need to get the rest of your leg activated. So, a good way to do that is to just kind of squeeze your legs onto your horse and then open your legs off your horse. Squeeze your legs onto your horse, open your legs off your horse. Then, from there, to get the hip flexors engaged, it would probably be best to do what's called like an alternating knee raise. So you'd sit up really tall on your horse. You might want to hold on to the horn if you don't feel very balanced in this position. But basically, you're just going to alternate raising one knee up, trying to still keep even weight in your seat bones. So you're going to sit up nice and tall, hold on to your horn or another part of your saddle, and you're going to think about staying straight and tall through your spine. You're going to lift your right knee straight up like an inch or two and then back down. And then you're going to lift your left knee up about an inch or two and then back down. And you want to focus on going slow and activating those hip flexor core muscles to get your legs ready to move up and down on your horse. And the biggest thing with that one is you want to make sure that your spine is staying tall and straight. You want to make sure that you're not leaning into the side that you're lifting on. So when you're lifting your right leg, you want to make sure that your right rib cage isn't collapsing and your right shoulder isn't dropping and you're leaning to the right, and then vice versa on the left side. So that is probably one of my favorite during the ride exercises to do. Part of the reason why I like that one so much is it's also going to activate your lower core muscles down into your hips. That's going to be really important for making sure that your seat bones stay even in the saddle.
I do a lot of posting when I first get on because I totally agree. It gets everything kind of warmed up and activated. But those other exercises that you described, that reminds me of back when I was a kid and I was first learning how to ride. And I'm thinking now that those instructors were probably using that to get us to learn how to use those type of muscles on our horses because we need that to ride. So it totally makes sense that we should still be able to do it now to activate everything and be able to use it properly.
Hi, everyone. It's your personal trainer, Ellie. If you're looking to become a stronger, more balanced, and flexible rider, I'm here to help. I offer virtual personal training sessions and customized workout plans that you can complete on your own. As a fellow competitor, I understand the physical demands riding requires, and my goal is to help you perform your best for your horse, whether you're preparing for a show or just want to improve your everyday rides. Visit lopindowntherailfitness.com or click on my website tab in the notes of this podcast episode to learn more. Let's work together to elevate your ride.
What do you recommend to activate your core muscles specifically?
So, like I said, that alternating knee raise is a great way to activate the lower core, but that's not going to activate your upper core at all. And the upper core is going to be essential for when you go to move your arms and when you're twisting and lifting up. Your upper core is going to need to be activated to do all of that. So, the easiest way is to do an alternating arm raise. So, you can either alternate which hand is holding the reins, or the easiest way is probably to just do one side at a time. So, hold the rein in your right hand, hold your left arm straight down by your side, lift your left arm straight out in front of you, and then back down. And then lift your left arm straight out to the left side and then back down. And the biggest thing that you want to focus on when you do that is resisting movement through your core. So your core gets activated and your core gets stronger by resisting movement. So what I mean by that is as you lift your arm, make sure you're not collapsing your rib cage. Make sure that your seat bones are not shifting side to side. Make sure you still have even weight in your stirrups. All those things are really important for helping that core muscle engage and keep you stable. For all of these exercises, you're probably going to want to be doing about 10 of each. Like I talked about in the pre ride routine, you want to activate your body, but you don't want to fatigue your body. So now you're going to put your reins in your left hand, and now you're going to do the same thing on the right side. And this would actually be a great exercise to do, not just while your horse is walking, but while your horse is trotting, while your horse is loping. I would pick the gait that you have the most trouble staying stable in, and that's the gait that I would do that routine on. Another great way to do it is called a dead bug. So this one I would probably only either do at the walk or even at a stop. I wouldn't try this one at the lope or the trot. Although I've never tried it at the lope or the trot. I'm gonna do that the next time I ride and see if I fall off.
Yeah, report
Um,
back.
yes, I will. I'll take my Pivo out and I'll record it. Um,
Even better.
so it's combining those 2 exercises that I just talked about together. So it's an arm raise and a knee raise at the same time, and you do opposite sides. So you start by again, this one I'd probably only do at the walk or the stop because it's kinda hard to hold on to your reins while you do it. You can kinda switch arms, but make sure that you either have somebody holding your horse or that your horse is being safe, especially while you do this one. So everything down by the sides. So legs straight down, probably feet out of the stirrup, arms straight down by the sides. At the same time, you're going to lift your right arm straight up and your left knee up, and you're going to hold for like a second, and then you're going to come back down. And then you're going to alternate sides. So now you're going to lift your left arm and your right knee up and then down. And you keep alternating. And you're going to notice the theme here. You're going to make sure that your spine is straight. You're going to make sure you're not collapsing one side of your rib cage. You're going to make sure you still have even weight in your seat bones. All those are the most important things that you need to focus on. A, when you're riding, but B, when you're doing all of these activating exercises, because that's how you're going to get the most benefit out of them.
So once my muscles are active and I'm riding around, sometimes I feel that I get tight, specifically in my lower back. If I'm galloping a lot of circles or doing a lot of extended trots, my lower back will start to get really tight. Is there anything that I can do when things like that start happening?
Yeah, for sure. So you want to figure out where you're getting tight, and then you want to think about lengthening that body part. Like we talked about again in the pre-ride routine last time, during your workout a couple weeks ago, you were doing an overhead curtsy lunge and your back was getting really tight during that. And it was causing you to have decreased performance during your movement. You were falling over, you couldn't stand up straight, you didn't have good core activation. So, what did we do?
Mhm.
We did a static stretch to help lengthen that back. So, that's exactly what we would want to do during a ride. You'd want to stop your horse and then you want to lengthen that body part. So for the back, the best way to do that is to do basically forward fold on your horse. So there's kind of two ways you can do that. You can sit tall in the saddle, stretch your arms straight up over your head, really lift up to the ceiling. And for some people, this might be enough stretch. Like if you're here and you feel your back muscle stretching, great, hold that right there. For me, that's not quite enough. So I have to bend over and touch my horse's ears. So I'm trying to keep my butt in the saddle. This one's kind of hard to do if you are riding a Western saddle. The horn is going to get in your way. So you kind of have to position yourself in a way where your horn is not cutting you in half. So you bend
Mhm.
over and you try and touch your horse's ears. And the whole time you're really thinking about lengthening your spine. The point is to lengthen your back muscles. So make sure you're not compressing your back and bringing your shoulders down towards your hips as you do this. You want to think about lengthening your shoulders away from your hips. So you would touch your horse's ears and you'd stay there for at least 30 seconds, ideally. And this would be a great time to make sure that somebody is nearby holding your horse because, again, safety, number one priority. You don't want to put you or your horse in a bad situation. So if you feel like you have a horse that you can't quite do that with, might be a good idea to just get off and do forward fold on the ground. So listen to your horse, listen to your trainer, do what's going to be best for you guys. But that's probably my favorite option. If you feel like the sides of your back or really deep down, kind of into your hips, and that part of your low back is really bothering you, you'd almost want to do like a side forward fold. So instead of bending over straight out in front to your horse's ears, you'd want to bend down towards your foot. So, for example, I would stretch my left hand down to my left toe and I'd stretch my right hand down to my right toe. Okay. Or you can stretch both hands down to one side. So, kind of try both, see which one works best for you. I personally like the best reaching down to one side at a time because I get really tight on the sides of my back. So that's going to be the best for me personally. But again, anything to lengthen your spine is going to be what helps relieve that tension. So it's super common for people to feel like they can't put their heels down, especially when you're practicing the eck or the horsemanship. So, to get your heels down, you need to lengthen the back of the calf. A great way to do that is to kick your feet out of the stirrups and sit up really, really tall, okay, as tall as you can. And then bring your legs as far back behind you as you can and push your heels down, okay, and stay in this position for 30 seconds. This is one that is actually really good to do not just at the walk, but while you're trotting and loping if you're comfortable enough. If you want to, you can still keep your feet in the stirrups. And the reason why is because the horse is moving and your body is going to have to stabilize and really push down against the horse's movement. And that's really going to ask a lot out of your calf for lengthening. So if you're struggling with your heels down, that's probably what I would do. If you're struggling with feeling like your posture is just not where it should be, like we talked about before, bad posture is typically characterized by tight chest muscles and weak upper back muscles. So you'd want to lengthen the chest and you'd want to activate the back. The best way to do that while you're riding is to do the open chest stretch, probably while your horse is either stopped or walking. You'd bring your arms out to your sides and your fingertips on your ears. And then from here, you'd think about sitting up nice and tall and opening up your chest muscles. So bringing your elbows back, but making sure you're not arching your back as you go into that position. So, arms out to the side, fingertips on the ears. That's a great option. Another one is just an arms crossed behind the back stretch. So, you basically just cross your arms behind your back. It's like you're kind of giving yourself a hug from behind. Again, holding that for about 30 seconds. And then you would want to activate the upper back muscles. The best way that I like to do that is called a shoulder protraction. You would hold both your arms straight out in front of you, like Frankenstein. And then it's a really, really small movement. And people tend to have trouble with this exercise because they try and do too much. But you just push your shoulder blades back and forth. So your arms are out in front of you the whole time. You push your shoulders forward and then you push them back. You push the shoulders forward and then you push them back. It's not a big movement. And the biggest thing that you need to be careful of is that you're not hunching your shoulders up towards your ears while you do it. So think about keeping your shoulder blades down the whole time as you're pushing back and forth. So if you're struggling with your posture, open up the chest, activate the back. Those are probably the main problem areas that I see people have. But if you have other areas that are getting tight, you just need to think, okay, I probably just need to lengthen that muscle and look up on Google, how do you stretch that muscle? And then see if you can make that stretch work while you're riding. And if you can't or you're having trouble figuring it out, just send me a message or send me a text. I'm happy to help you.
That's perfect. Yeah, my trainer, as I was going into the horsemanship pen this past weekend, she kept telling me, okay, open your chest, open your chest. And so I'm going to have to implement a few of those things before my next showtime. And then it's interesting how you pointed out, too, of making sure your shoulders didn't come up through that. Because when we were practicing for showmanship, she kept reminding me, get your shoulders down, get your shoulders down. So those are great tips that I'm definitely going to bring into the arena with me next time I'm at a horse show. So thank you for that.
So I'm going to quiz you. What should you do in that scenario when your shoulders just keep hunching up towards your ears? What muscle is activated that shouldn't be activated?
My traps.
Correct.
Yeah,
You
I'm
have learned I have
listening.
taught you something,
Absolutely. We've been working out long enough. I hope I could answer
right?
that.
So what
I did get a little nervous though.
so what should you do about it?
So I'm gonna pull them down to lengthen them. I'm gonna think about relaxing it because
Yep.
I think a lot of it for me personally, I hold a lot of tension in my
Yes.
upper muscles. So I'm going to probably breathe through that and try to relax that. My chest kind of is tight. So for that part, I will do probably the backwards hug because sometimes I just need a little hug and that sounded great.
Yeah, so Lauren's totally right. Usually our trap muscles activate because we're getting anxious or because we're cold or something like that. Sometimes you just need to be mindful about pushing your shoulder blades down because if your shoulder blades are down, you can't activate your trap muscle. So if you put your right hand kind of on your collarbone area between your ear and your shoulder and kind of more towards your back, that's where your trap muscle is. So that muscle tends to get really, really tight, especially in people who have desk jobs or people who have stressful jobs. It's just really common to get tight there. If you're finding that just being mindful about keeping your shoulder blades down isn't enough, you can do what's called a cross neck stretch. So you would place your right hand on top of your head, and then you would think about pulling your right ear down to your right shoulder, and then you would cross your left arm behind your back. So if you go into that stretch, you should feel a really nice stretch on the left side of your neck. And then you would do that one on both sides for about 30 seconds. And that one is one that you do have to be a little careful of, especially if you don't do it often and you have a really tight neck. That is an easy one to overdo. So you want to make sure that you're pulling your ear close enough to your shoulder where you feel like you're getting a stretch, but you don't want to pull it to the point where it hurts it more than when you started. The point of a stretch is to release tension, not create tension.
Are you looking for that extra competitive edge, struggling with show pen anxiety, or looking to set and achieve meaningful goals with your horse? Schedule a session with me, Lauren, your dedicated mindset coach. As an experienced competitor, I understand the mental demands required to excel at the highest level, and I'm here to support you in building a plan to help you stay accountable and reaching those goals. For more information, check out laurencervelli.com or click on the website link in our show notes. Let's work together to elevate your ride. So, can we talk a little bit more about how to stay soft in your muscles and body while keeping them activated? Because sometimes it seems like a fine line between being so strong and then you become tight and rigid versus being so soft that you're just loosey goosey and kind of bouncing around up there. What do you recommend to distinguish between the two?
That's probably the hardest part, right? Because how do you stay soft but engaged at the same time? That's where your preparation is going to come in handy. So if you've been working out, if you've done your pre-ride routine, if you've make sure that your muscles are activated while you're on your horse, that's going to be the number one thing. If your muscles are not properly activated and are not strong enough, you are not going to be able to stay soft and activated at the same time because if they're not strong enough, let's say, for example, your inner thighs aren't strong enough to keep you stable on your horse. The whole time that you're riding, you're just going to be thinking about your inner thighs the whole time and clamping them down on your horse if they're not very strong. Well, how can you be soft in the rest of your body if you're clamping down? You'd want to make sure that you're doing your job and putting the work in to keep those inner thighs strong. And you'd want to activate them before you ride, right? So, like we talked about in the last pre ride routine, you want to make sure that you're doing your plie squats or your side lunges before you get on. And then, like I talked about a couple minutes ago, you'd want to be opening and then closing your legs on your horse when you first hop on. And let's say that you do that in the beginning and then you go through your ride and you're working on something else for 30 minutes that's using different body parts and using different muscles. You can reactivate a body part, right? Like you don't have to just do it in the beginning. Let's say that you're partway through your ride and you're like, man, like my inner thighs just are not working enough. Go do some posting or go open and close your legs on your horse 10 or 15 times, right? Like do what your body needs to do in order for you to have the best and the most successful ride. Another way to stay soft is you just have to be mindful of it, right? So let's say that I'm doing the horsemanship. The horsemanship, you're typically a little bit tighter than in the pleasure. So you want to think about your muscles being activated without them being tense. And there's a difference, right? So let's say that my inner thighs are strong and they're stable. Okay. All I need to do is thinking about slightly turning those muscles on. And if you've been working out, if you've been putting in the time, that's going to be easy for you to do. If you haven't been putting in that time and that effort, you're not going to have as much body control as somebody who does do all of that. So that's where working out can really come in handy is learning how to turn body parts on and off. So you'd want to activate those inner thighs, but when you do that, you want to make sure you're not clamping down. That way the rest of the body can be soft. The body cannot be soft if a part is clamped. Okay? So let's say that you have a really tight neck or really tight up in your shoulders. If you're tight up there, you're probably going to be hunching forward. Your upper body's going to feel clamped onto your horse. It's going to be really hard to move your hand around, right? Because it's so clenched and so tight. And you're also not going to be able to move your hips very well with your horse. The body is all part of what's called the kinetic chain. So the body is all connected. Again, I've talked about this before where if you have a tightness in your back, your hamstrings are probably also going to be tight. Your calves probably also going to be tight. The body is all connected. And if one part is not working or functioning the way that it should, other body parts are not going to function the way they should either.
And speaking of how they're all connected, what about if one of your legs is weaker than the other, or you feel an imbalance of one shoulder being raised up more than the other? How can we counteract that in the middle of a ride?
It's so hard, right? So I struggle with that because I have the weakness on my left side of my back and the left side of my core. So because of that, I'm not able to use the left side of my body near as effective as I can the right side of my body. So for me, I make sure that I'm not only riding my best direction, right? So for a long time, I used to ride with a little bit more of a fixed mindset. And I used to only practice the things that I knew I was good at and the things that made me feel good about my ride. The things that I knew I was comfortable with, the things that I was going to be good at. That's all that I would practice. And I would only get better at the things that I was already good at. So I had to kind of take a step back in my riding and say, okay, where am I weak and where do I need to be stronger? I'm not a very good rider to the right because the left side of my body is not very stable. So every time I'd get on my horse, I would always default to always riding to the left first because that's where I felt confident and that's where I felt strong. So I started when I get on my horse, I ride to the right first. If I remember. Some
Mhm.
I'll admit sometimes I forget, but I ride to the right first. And I do things that are hard for my body in the beginning of my ride to get them activated and to get them stronger. I don't try and push it off toward to the end of my ride when my body is already fatigued after riding hard for an hour. So I think that you should find where you're weak and try and focus on that piece first when you get on your horse or in the beginning of your ride. That way it's not fatigued towards the end. So let's say that you feel like your right leg is not as strong as your left leg and you can't activate it as well on your horse. Like I said earlier, the preparation that you put into the saddle before you even get on your horse is really going to be what makes the most difference in that. So, if you're cross training where you're working out in the gym regularly, you want to make sure that you're doing single leg exercises as much as you can. Because let's say you're doing some forward lunges, you're going to be strengthening one leg at a time. In a squat, you're strengthening both legs at the same time, and your dominant leg is going to push harder naturally than your weaker leg. So, you kinda wanna do the same thing in your pre-ride warm-up, right? Like, you'd wanna be activating your muscles in your legs individually, one side at a time. So, during your ride, you wanna focus on that same thing. So, let's say that you're having trouble getting your right leg in your horse. A great way to help activate that right leg is to close your right leg on your horse and then open it. Close the right leg on the horse and then open it. Or do some posting trot where your feet are out of the stirrups, or maybe you just have one leg in the stirrup. Okay. So let's say that your right leg is weaker than your left. Go do some posting where only your left foot is in the stirrup, because then the left side of your body is going to be stable, but that right side won't be, right? So that right leg is really going to have to activate. So the takeaway from all of this is you have to figure out what's not working and you have to go and activate it. If that muscle or that body part is not activated, it's not going to work as well as it should.
Yeah, it sounds like it's just a lot of self awareness, a self assessment, and then going and doing something about it. Hey, Elevate Your Ride fans. Are you loving our show and looking for a way to show your support? Check out our line of Elevate Your Ride merchandise. From stylish t shirts to cozy hoodies to journals and hats, we have everything you need to represent your favorite podcast. Ready to gear up? Click on the Buy Our Merchandise Here link in the podcast notes, or head on over to our website, elevateyourride.co, and click on the Store tab. Thank you for your support. Make sure to like, follow, and share our platform with your friends.
So, something that I want to bring up is I've talked about this before. I hate doing the pleasure because it's so hard for me. And we had this really cool pleasure horse in the barn a couple years ago named Cowboy Cut. He is one of the best Western pleasure horses. I think he was leading the nation in, I want to say, the green pleasure for a long time. I'd have to ask my trainer. I don't remember exactly what, but a very, very nice pleasure horse. And my trainer would have me ride him, and I still could not figure out how to do the frickin' pleasure even on this nice horse. And part of the problem that I was having, this was a couple years ago, so I'm sure I would be stronger now, but one of the main things that I would struggle with is when I was riding to the right, I felt like the left side of my body would collapse. So I wasn't able to be very effective because the left side of my body was so collapsed. And I ride right-handed. So what I used to do is while I was riding around, I would ride around with my left arm straight up in the air. And the reason why is because when you lift your left arm straight up over your head, like I want you to do that right now. Go ahead and lift your left arm straight over your head. Can you feel how that lengthens your left rib cage? Like it just automatically
Mhm.
makes you sit up straighter, sit up taller. It lengthens the left side of your body. So while I was riding around, I would have my left arm up in the air for as long as I could without my left arm feeling like it was going to fall off. And then I made sure that when I did put my left arm back down, that I didn't let my left side collapse again. I would make sure that I still had my shoulder up and my rib cage up and pushing my left heel down. And that was huge for helping me feel more balanced in the saddle.
What advice do you have if we're getting fatigued in the middle of a ride and we still have things that we need to get done? Or let's say we have a pattern with no stirrups and maybe we aren't quite as prepared as we thought we should be, but we still have to finish the pattern. Is there anything we can do then?
I'm gonna answer it in 2 parts. So, let's say that
Okay.
you're riding it, like, just at the barn, and
Hmm.
let's say that you're having a really tough ride and you know that your body is tapped out, but you know that you still have to go and do more with your horse. So, what I would have somebody do during a workout if that happened is I'd have them rest. Like, let's say that somebody's going through a workout, they're fatigued, but I need them to finish out that workout. I'd have them go lay on their back and hug their knees into their chest for a minute or 2 minutes until their heart rate has come back down, until they feel like their glycogen stores have been replenished. That way they have enough energy in their muscles to go and use them again, right? So, if you feel like you're losing energy and you need to replenish it, the easiest thing to do is just go and rest. So, take a couple minutes, let your horse walk, let your heart rate come back down, let your body kind of regain some of that energy. And like I said, let your glycogen stores replenish. How do you replenish glycogen stores? by eating carbohydrates. So, making sure that you are fueled before you go on ride with plenty of carbohydrates. So that way, when you do rest, your body actually can replenish. So, if you feel like you go and you do that and you feel like you didn't get anything out of a rest, you probably need more carbs closer to your activity. So, if you're
This is my
getting
favorite thing you've said. More carbs.
Yes, yes, more carbs. So that can be some pasta, that can be some rice, it can be a piece of bread, something like that. You could even keep something on the barn rail or in your pocket during a mid ride, right? Like, how often do you see athletes go off the field and go eat a bar really quick during the middle of a game? All the time, right? So you want to eat, and if you're going to do that, granted, I'm not a nutritionist, so I don't want to speak on this too much. But if you are going to do that, you want to make sure it's a simple carbohydrate that's not difficult for your body to digest. You'd want to eat something that's quick and simple and easy for your body to digest. You also don't really want to eat a lot of protein or a lot of fat, especially like during an activity. You want that to be carbs. And again, I can't speak on exactly why that is. I just know that it has to do with the body's ability to digest. And then with regards to showing, I think that's where the mental piece is going to have to come in. I think that's when it's gonna have to be mind over matter, and if you're in the middle of the show pen and you're gassed, that's when you're gonna have to dig deep and rely on the preparation that you've done, made sure that you had enough carbs, made sure that you had enough water, made sure that you activated before you rode, make sure that you've been putting in the work and doing your workouts. I think that during the show pen, I don't know that there's a whole lot you can do. Maybe there's a moment where, let's say that you do a haunch turn and your elements are only judged, like, you're not given just one big score based on how your entire pattern went. It's based on each individual element. So let's say that you finish a haunch turn and the next part of the pattern is you're supposed to go lope off and then do a lead change and then do an extended canter, right? So that's going to be a big maneuver. So let's say that you go up to your haunch turn and you stop for a moment. Take a deep breath. Like, let maybe, and again, this should probably be up to you and your trainer. But if this was me and I was in the middle of my ride and I knew that I was fatigued and I wouldn't be able to make it through my next maneuver well, I would stop and I would pause for a moment. I'd regain my breath. I'd give a moment for my body to relax. And then I'd ask it to pick right back up. Now, obviously, you probably can't do that for like 10 or 15 seconds, but you might be able to get away with it for 1 to 2, maybe 3 seconds, right? And because the maneuvers are individually scored, you'd probably be better off taking a little bit of a ding and giving yourself that moment to relax. That way, you have enough energy to go do your lead change and go do your extended circle.
Yeah. So at the last show that I went to, they did the showmanship back to back, and we had a
Oh, that's
big
tough.
extended trot circle,
That's
and
tough.
oh, yeah, and we had to run so hard and so fast, and there was quarters, and, like, you have the adrenaline, and I had to go first, so there was no
Mhm.
gap in between. So I
Yeah.
get to go to the 2nd cone, and I am just breathing, and they're like, "Okay, we're ready." And there was no time, and so I was so thankful, like you said, for all the pre-show preparation that we have done, the agility exercises that you have
Yeah.
me do, the strength exercises, but I did try to take an extra half second pause on some of those maneuvers, like right before my turn, right before I trotted off, because I knew that I was gonna be so gassed by the time I got there, but I had to mentally kind of overcome it and say to myself, "You better control this breathing because this is only a minute and a half of your life. So, get it together,
Get it
girl."
together. Yeah. That's where I think your, Sam Tinez music is gonna help pump you up.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think you're right on those parts. I would have liked to have been able to just say, "Hold on one second, and let me hug my knees real quick," and then keep going.
Let me just lay down in the dirt, lay on my back, hug my knees into my chest, and just, like, die for 30 seconds, and then I'll go up and I'll go finish my pattern. I think the
Ma
judges will totally be fine with that.
I'll try it next time and let you know.
Oh my god, not at Sun Circuit, please.
Yeah, maybe not there. Thank you for listening to Elevate Your Ride. Find us on Instagram and Facebook, all linked in the podcast notes. We'll see you next time. The information provided by Elevate Your Ride is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical or professional advice. While we discuss health and fitness topics related to equestrians, the content provided through this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. The views expressed by the host and guests on Elevate Your Ride are their own and should not be taken as professional guidance. We strive to provide accurate and up to date information, but we cannot guarantee that the information will be applicable to every individual listener or that it reflects the most current research or guidelines. Before making any changes to your health and fitness routine, we strongly recommend consulting with a qualified professional who can provide personalized advice based on your individual needs and circumstances. Elevate Your Ride and its creators will not be liable for any direct, indirect, consequential, special, exemplary, or other damages arising from the use of information on this podcast. Thank you for listening to Elevate Your Ride. We are committed to providing high quality content and appreciate your trust in us as a source of information for your health and fitness journey.